It started on a Tuesday, or maybe it was a Wednesday. The days in my small apartment have a way of blurring together, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun outside my window. My name is Arif, and for the past few years, my life has been a quiet, predictable rhythm. I work from home, I order my groceries, and I rarely venture far. The silence of my building is a comfort, a steady hum that fills the empty spaces. But that silence was about to be broken, not by a sound, but by an image that would follow me, haunt me, and change the way I see my own reflection forever. It began in the bathroom, a room I've stood in 1,000 times without a second thought. The fluorescent light hummed overhead as I brushed my teeth, the familiar minty foam filling my mouth. I was tired, my eyes heavy from a long day staring at a screen. As I looked up into the mirror, my own weary face stared back. But it wasn't just my face. Behind my reflection, standing near the shower curtain, was a girl. My heart didn't jump. It just seemed to stop, a cold stillness spreading through my chest. She was pale, with long dark hair that fell over her shoulders, and she was wearing a simple white dress. Her eyes were fixed on me, wide and unblinking. For a long moment, I didn't move. My mind tried to rationalize a trick of the light, a symptom of exhaustion. But she was so clear, so undeniably there. I spun around, my toothbrush clattering into the sink. The bathroom was empty. The shower curtain was still. There was no one there. I was completely alone. I slowly turned back to the mirror, my breath held tight in my lungs. My reflection stared back, solitary and pale. She was gone. It must have been nothing. I told myself. It had to be. The next morning, I tried to convince myself that I had imagined it all. It was easy to do in the bright light of day. The apartment felt normal. The silence was comforting again, and the bathroom mirror showed only my own tired face. I made my coffee, answered some emails, and tried to fall back into my routine. Later that afternoon, I had to step out for a package. As I waited for the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished brass of the call button, and there she was again. This time, she was just a flicker, a brief impression of a pale face and dark hair standing behind my shoulder. I flinched, stepping back. I looked around the empty hallway. There was no one. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and I stepped inside, my heart now beating a frantic, uneven rhythm. The mirrored walls of the elevator were my own personal nightmare. I forced myself to look. There she was, in every panel, standing silently behind me. Her expression never changed. It wasn't menacing or angry. It was just empty, a profound, hollow stillness that seemed to absorb all the light in the small space. I didn't scream. I just stood there, facing the door, watching her in the reflections until the elevator reached the ground floor. From that day on, she was everywhere. Not in the real world, never, but in any surface that could cast my image back at me. I saw her in the darkened screen of my laptop when it went to sleep, a ghostly figure superimposed over my own. I saw her in shop windows as I walked down the street, a silent companion following me through the crowds. I saw her in the rearview mirror of a taxi, her pale face staring from the back seat. Even though I was the only passenger, she never made a sound. She never moved, except to appear. It felt as if she was a photograph, an afterimage burned into my vision, tied inextricably to my own reflection. I started to avoid mirrors. I covered the one in my bathroom with a towel. I kept my laptop screen bright and active. I learned to walk down the street with my eyes fixed on the pavement, afraid of what I might see in the periphery. But it was impossible. Reflections are everywhere, in a puddle on the sidewalk, in the back of a spoon, in the polished surface of a doorknob, and every single time, she was there. The fear was constant, a low hum of anxiety that lived just beneath my skin. I wasn't sleeping well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her hollow stare. I thought about leaving, about packing a bag and just running away from my apartment, from the city. But where would I go? She wasn't tied to this place. She was tied to me. Running felt useless. A strange thought began to form in my mind, a fragile seedling of an idea that pushed through the thick soil of my fear. What if she wasn't trying to hurt me? Her stillness, her silence, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a question, an unspoken plea. The fear was still there, but something else was growing alongside it. Curiosity. I had to understand. I decided to stop running and start watching. I started paying closer attention, not just to her, but to the details. I forced myself to look, to really study her in the reflections, and that's when I noticed it. In the bathroom mirror, that first night, she had been standing several feet behind me, near the shower. In the elevator, she was a little closer. In the shop window, closer still. In the reflection on my phone screen just yesterday, her face was almost next to mine. She was moving, but only within the mirrored world. With each passing day, with every new reflection, she took a silent, imperceptible step forward. It was as if she was walking a long, invisible path toward me, a path that only existed in glass and polished metal. The realization didn't make me less afraid, but it clarified things. This wasn't random. There was a purpose to it, a destination, and that destination, I suspected, was me. My apartment building is old, with a certain character that comes from decades of lives lived within its walls. It has a small, dusty storage room in the basement, filled with forgotten things from previous tenants. A few nights ago, I stood in my hallway, staring at my own reflection in the darkened screen of my television. She was there, as always, but this time, she was so close that her face was overlapping with mine. Her image was clearer than ever before. I could see the sorrow in her eyes. Gathering every ounce of courage I had, I whispered to the reflection, my voice a dry rasp in the silent room. "What do you want?" For the first time, something changed. The reflection of the girl slowly, deliberately, lifted her hand. It was a small, pale hand, almost translucent. She didn't point at me. She pointed past me, toward the door of my apartment, and beyond. She was pointing toward the basement. My hands trembled as I unlocked the door to the storage room. A wave of cold, musty air washed over me. The room was just as I remembered it, a chaotic maze of cardboard boxes, old furniture draped in white sheets, and a thick layer of dust that covered everything like a gray blanket. I didn't know what I was looking for. I followed a gut feeling, a strange pull toward the far corner of the room, a section I had never explored. Behind a stack of collapsed boxes and an old broken lamp, I found it. It was a large, ornate mirror, its wooden frame covered in cobwebs. It was leaning against a cold concrete wall, its surface so clouded with grime that it barely reflected anything. It felt ancient, heavy with time. As I wiped away a patch of dust, I saw something wedged behind it. It was a small, leather-bound book, a diary. I took the diary and the mirror back to my apartment. I cleaned the mirror carefully, and as the glass became clear, I held my breath. I looked into it, and for the first time in weeks, my reflection was empty. She wasn't there. My heart pounded as I sat down and opened the diary. The handwriting inside was neat, feminine. It belonged to a girl named Alara, who had lived in my very apartment 50 years ago. She wrote of her loneliness, of feeling invisible in a busy world. She wrote about her love for the old mirror, how she felt it was her only true friend, the only thing that truly saw her. The last entry was dated. She wrote that she was going to hide, to disappear into the one place she felt she belonged, waiting for someone to finally find her. On that day, she had vanished without a trace. No one ever knew what happened to her. I stood in front of the newly polished mirror, holding the open diary. I looked at my own reflection, my face no longer pale with fear, but filled with a profound sense of sadness and understanding. I thought of Alara, a girl lost to time, who just wanted to be found. As I watched my own eyes in the mirror, her image began to fade in, one last time. She was standing right beside me now, her reflection so solid she almost seemed real. Her face, for the first time, held a new expression. It was a faint, gentle smile. She leaned closer, and a whisper, like the rustling of dry leaves, seemed to come not from the mirror, but from the air all around me. A single, grateful sentence. "Thank you for finding me." And then, as slowly as she had appeared, she faded away. I checked every mirror, every reflective surface in my apartment. They were all empty. She was gone. She wasn't a ghost haunting me. She was a memory, waiting for help. And in the end, all she needed was for someone, just once, to truly see her.